Hi there. We're going to work on both the stretch and the action required for revolved triangle. So we're going to work first on the action in the body and in the joints, and specifically engaging transverse abdominis and the oblique muscles. So let's start with the layers, the poses that we use in the class as we work our way up to the peak pose at the end of class. So first, I would do rotating cobra during my warm-up by pointing the toes back, walking the fingertips out, and I would encourage people to inhale to come up to and rotate their cobra, bringing one shoulder towards their mat and the other shoulder up towards the ceiling. I'd encourage them to feel themselves rooted and supported on their mat, to lengthen the spine as they rotate, using abdominals to twist and pull the belly back. And then I would tell them that they can feel their body in the corseting action of the waist, and remind them that those are their external obliques and rectus abdominis muscles engaged. Next, I would use rotating chair in Sun B. I would say, inhale and feel yourself rooted and supported on the earth. Lengthen the spine as you rotate, using your abdominals to twist and pull your belly back. I'd remind them to feel their side body and the corseting action of the waist. Those are your external obliques and the rectus abdominis, the deep abdominal muscles. Whew. Next, I would practice in rotating low lunge. Now, whether I had hands here or one hand on the mat and one hand on the low back, it would be the same cues. Inhale and feel yourself supported by your mat, by the earth. Lengthen your spine as you rotate, using your abdominals to twist, pull your belly back, to feel your side body and the corseting action of your waist. And again, reminding them that those are your external obliques and rectus abdominis muscles engaged. If I was doing rotating low lunge, one of my favorite tricks to use that I've learned from Matt is to pull that connection away. I feel in my own body, I feel that so much more. And then I love to play in rotating high lunge. And I think that this is a great place for my members to be if revolving their triangle doesn't work in their body for whatever reason. So again, the same thing in rotating low lunge, feeling yourself rooted and supported, lengthening the spine as you rotate, using the abdominals to twist and pull your belly back, feeling this corseting action of your waist, and reminding them that those are their external obliques and rectus abdominis. And lastly, I would use a wide-legged twist with one hand down and the opposite arm reaching up and overhead. I'd remind them to feel rooted in the earth, in their body, to lengthen from the crown of the head all the way down to the tailbone while they use the abdominal muscles to pull the belly back and up, feeling the corseting action of the waist, reminding them that those are their rectus abdominis muscles working. So those are my layers for the target action, the action of lengthening the spine and rotating, using the musculature rather than kind of falling into the work. Now for the target stretch, and the target stretch here is hamstrings. So for hamstrings, my first layer would be forward fold. And in forward fold, I love to play with a micro tuck of the tailbone. So I would tell my members to feel rooted in your heels and then lengthen from your heels up through the hamstrings as you micro tuck the tailbone to activate into the stretch. I would tell them to feel the length in the back of their legs and be observant of how it feels in their hamstrings in this moment. And I would remind them that those are their hamstring muscles working hard for them every single day. My next layer would be downward facing dog. I would remind my members to press back into the legs, micro bending the knees depending on what's happening in the backs of their legs. I would remind them they're rooted in the mat, both in their hands and in their feet. I would ask them to lengthen through the torso and then micro tuck that tailbone at the end to assist in this stretch of the hamstrings. Next, I would use half split, and I would place this in my Sun A, pressing back, pushing the heel away. And you know, it's funny because as I'm thinking about this work, it feels like just about everybody understands where their hamstrings are. But really, I think that sometimes people can get really lost in where the back wants to be here. So I would remind them that they are rooted down into their mat and they have the foundation that is required. I would ask them to lengthen from the tailbone out the crown of the head to feel more in that hamstring. And I would also remind them to micro tuck that tailbone to assist with the hamstring stretch here, reminding them that both strength and stretch live together. And then I would educate them and tell them those are your hamstring muscles, both working and stretching at the same time. And I would also use that wide-legged forward fold, which is a really nice connection between my target action and my target stretch, right? So as we come down into wide-legged fold, I would ask them to root down into their heels, micro bend the knees, lift the tailbone to the sky to start, and then micro tuck and release the crown of the head towards the earth. I'd remind them to lengthen up the backs of the legs. And lastly, I would use triangle as we are getting ready to head into our peak pose. I would start out in triangle, reminding them to keep the hips squared towards the mat and to pull that hip crease back towards the back of their mat and feel that hamstring activation. I'd remind them that they are rooted and grounded into their feet and to maybe heel toe the feet apart a little bit if they're feeling unsupported. I'd ask them to lengthen from their heel up through the hamstring as they micro tuck that tailbone to activate into the stretch. I'd ask them to put their attention to the back of the leg and observe how it feels, reminding them that those are their hamstring muscles that they use every single day. All right, so that's my target action and my target stretch. And I feel like so many of those postures really crisscross over each other, which really made working into Parivrtta Trikonasana really interesting, but also challenging because I started to feel like they were crossing over a little too much. So now when I get to peak pose at the end of class, I would approach it from down dog and start in a single leg. So I'm going to use my left leg so that I can approach in this direction. I would have them step through and walk the foot into place in low lunge, and then I would have them lengthen into triangle, making any corrections with their feet. And of course I don't have any blocks here, so I'm just going to pretend. I would ask them to use blocks, and this gives them options. Twisting doesn't always work for everybody, so this is a great place to be and to engage in the legs, feel that hamstring that they've worked into all the way through class, and engage the torso. I would remind them to put their weight into the back foot to counter the twist, creating their foundation. I would encourage high lunge twist for accessibility. Our high triangle. This is a great place to kind of, I don't know if this is a mat term or where I picked it up from, but I always call it shaking the snow globe, right? Kind of seeing it in a different way. Or I would encourage them to bring their feet closer together to access this. So if I have my hand on my block here, as I head into the peak pose, I would ask them to keep the tailbone straight back, wag the tail, I think that's a mat, using their abdominals to twist and pull the belly back and up. And then as they get into revolved triangle, I would remind them that they've prepared for this posture through the entire class, that they are ready for it, but to also observe and feel the right action in their body, making any changes that are required, maybe the top hand to the low back or putting a block on the low back to observe the right action. Whew. I'm gonna have to do all of that on the other side so I can balance myself out. Manuela, thank you for your feedback. Matt, thank you for your encouragement and amazing tools. Thank you so much. Have a great day.